Today I'm going to show you how I cut out my PDF patterns. So things that I'm going to need, obviously a PDF pattern, scissors, tape, I use a rotary cutter, pattern weights, cutting mat, and my floor. The first thing that you want to do after you print your pattern is find the page that has the picture on it. This is going to be clutch because it's going to show you exactly how everything is laid out and exactly how it should look as you put it together. Then you're going to take note of how many tiles are in each row. And then in the beginning, I like to split up my pattern by rows. So this has 6 tiles in each row. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put that in a pile. Count 7 to 12. So we got it each pile. And then the first thing I always do is I cut the right hand margin and the bottom margin. You'll see these little perforated dot things. That's your cutting line. So you can do this with scissors, you can do it with your rotary cutter. I'm gonna go ahead and do it with scissors just because I have them here in my hand. And then we're going to get to tiling. So remember, we put our pattern into piles of our rows. Let's start out by just laying out our piles into the rows. Have them here. Now let's start tiling. It's literally like a giant jigsaw puzzle, right? So remember when we cut off our right hand margins, you just lay the cut side of the pattern on top of the uncut left hand side. You'll notice I'm doing this up against the wall because it's nice to have a straight edge to give you a guide as well. Remember, layer your right hand side that's cut off over top of the left hand side that's uncut. And then this is where I use pattern weights because the paper shifts sometimes. So just pop a pattern weight on there so it doesn't shift as you're laying it out. Super helpful. And just match up your lines, right? So like I said, giant jigsaw puzzle. So now that I have the row laid out, you can go ahead and get taping. So again, this is where the pattern weights in your straight edge, like a wall or something, are going to really help because you just want to make sure as you're taping that everything is lining up on your pattern. Sometimes there'll be little guides like here or here. This one doesn't have that, but that's okay because we'll just use the actual pattern lines itself as like a guide of how close they're on point. And I feel like that's better anyway. I like to put my tape over like the pattern line itself just to make sure when I go to cut this thing out, I don't like it doesn't slide and then I mess it up. But yeah, I use a lot of tape. I buy cheapy like tape from Amazon that comes in like a pack of 800 that's like generally speaking garbage for wrapping gifts, but it works fine for taping patterns. You want to just keep checking your pattern as you're taping for shifting, because that definitely happens, especially when we're cutting out on the floor and we're laying on top of it and moving it around and stuff. Keep checking because look at that shift. Look how much it shifted. Whoa, that was a lot. We have our first row tape. That's like our foundation row kind of. And we know that that's nice and straight because we have it up against the wall. We have our pattern weights. We can take some tape off now. We don't really need them now so much. And we just keep going. And so this is again, your little picture is going to be helpful to reference back to as you're building it out. So you'll see in the second row, we slide the top margin, which we didn't cut off, underneath the bottom margin of the first row, which we did cut off, so that the perforated lines line up. And then I just pop pattern weight there. And I like to kind of tape a little bit as I go, almost like a basting tape, just to hold it in place, and then mess with it later if it for some reason gets misaligned. So I'll tape the top row and the bottom row over, but just with like a little bit of tape for now. So now what we're doing is we're lining up, we're sliding under this guy, the left-hand margin that was uncut, we're sliding it under the right-hand margin of the neighbor to the left, as well as we're sliding the top margin that wasn't cut underneath its upper neighbor whose bottom margin was cut off. For now, we could just put like a little bit of tape there just till we work it out. I think the most tape you need in the beginning is the top row, because that's, like I said, your foundation row. I'm kind of laying out left to right, but you don't really have to lay it out that way. You can sort of just slide it together as well. But just make sure you're following the number order, and that as you're laying it out and taping it together, you're checking to make sure that your pattern edges and lines are lining up. Now that we have our pattern all taped together, you're gonna look to see what size you want your garment to be, and then identify, sometimes they'll do it by color. This one does it by dot shape, which is useful because then you don't need to waste color ink. So I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna be sewing a 14 today. So I am going to cut my pattern out along the 14 line, which is kind of confusing because these dots do all look very similar, but it's this guy right here. So just double check. And it also kind of helps to see where your size is in relation to the other sizes on the chart. So if you kind of get tripped up in terms of which dot you're supposed to be cutting out, you can kind of reference like where on the garment that is related to the other sizes, if that makes sense. So again, I'm doing a 14, so I'm going to be cutting out the lines that have this longish dash here. So this is where the rotary cutter and cutting on the floor with my cutting mats underneath is really, really helpful. Instead of, I could sit here with my scissors and go like this, which is fine, right? But I got a rotary cutter, so I don't have to do all that. If you ever make a mistake while you're cutting and you notice it before you take your pattern, like pop the pieces out, you just tape it and recut it. It's a clumsy girl tip from me, the clumsy girl. Just pop it out. And there you go, you got yourself a pattern piece. You're gonna do the same thing for the rest of the pattern pieces. And that's it. It's super easy. It just takes a while, that's all.